Smart as a deer and fast as a cantaloupe, our brave hero was searching for the lost city of Marcita Aurora. The ground is nothing without the knowledge of architecture. Therefore, his step led him to the capital city of Gandalf, home of the greatest builders in the kingdom.
Welcome one and all to Waystone Painting Minis for our weekly progression on that massive project, the building of a full scenery for your fantasy games. Following our last week achievement regarding the ground, where we discovered the limit of our wrist stamina, we have an almost complete board and we'll let it aside for this week. We are moving to our background and will design 3 completely different medieval houses from scratch, using mostly the same material than last week. We had to work on endurance, but we'll focus on precision this time, so prepare your square, ruler and compass. 3 houses for 3 various shapes and size. To recall what I decided while mapping the project, the main house in the middle, which will be the biggest, is an opulent stone manor with 3 floors. The one on the right is going to be the house of a merchant or a tavern, something not too fancy but rather clean. And on the other side, a wooden hovel, probably the abandoned hideaway of some thieves or other foes. Before beginning the real work, there will be a lot of prep to get our main items identified and scaled. If you are not into brain racking, you can of course choose to place the doors and windows randomly by feeling, but we're not doing it on this project, so let's check what we will do. Let's begin easy. The wooden house is the simplest. 2 floors, 1 door not too big, 2 main windows that will be condemned and locked, and an old bullseye window with shattered glass. The walls will be covered with wood planks of various sizes. Regarding the roof, the house has a front pinion that we'll later cover with wood slates. Even if the stone house is the biggest and richest, it's not really such a puzzle to design. It will be mostly ashless stones, the same we used for our previous video, that's why we designed so many of them. The 2 upper floors will be cobbled, that means we'll add a second layer of foamboard there. 2 main windows with stained glass on ground level, same ones on the second floor and smaller ones above. And also a protruding stone for a flag and a shield. The last house will be the biggest challenge. It has an arch door, half timbering on 2 floors, 4 windows and rough cast all in between. It's also cobbled and we will have a full curved tiled roof. Half timbering as usually vertical and diagonal wood structure with wood planks supporting every window and floor, and we want this house to look realistic. There, our main lines are drawn, and we will separate from the excess pieces, which are the rooftops, the doors and windows. For the windows, I'm not cutting the exact dimension, but grind around 3 mm around the actual frame, except from the wood house. It doesn't really matter for this episode, but at the end of the project, it will help us stick the window panes. I will also do it for the door frames, with 2 mm, and in this case will help fixing the doors at the end of this video. And there we go! This episode is finished and we have 3 beautiful medieval houses in the next... Nah, of course I'm kidding. We have barely touched the surface of our task. Let's move back to the wooden house. Okay, the main material for this one will be the foam board, 5 mm thick. As most of the building will be covered with wood planks, we will create those by cutting some long 1 cm wide slats. Normally you should still have some 10 mm thick foam board, and we will also cut 2 slats, 5 cm long and 5 mm wide. Foam boards are great because it's solid and easy to glue thanks to the paper on it, but a real pain when you want to texture them. So we will tear one side of paper on each, and if there is still some stuck on it, I would advise you take it off using water. Now we take the wire brush and firmly scratch the surface in the wood fiber direction. It only takes a few brush strokes to get a decent result, but you can damage it more or less as you please. On the thicker slats, don't forget to scratch on the 3 bare sides, as those are going to be the lintels instead of planks. Once all the planks are ready, it's time to glue them. I'm using hot glue here, but you can use something else if you want, as long as it's not super glue. We are first doing the lintels at the 2 floors. That will mostly help us to keep a straight base as we build this wood planks grid. Now the main part of the covering. I suggest that you begin at the ground level with slats cut at around 6 cm each. It's important not having a pure fraction on the whole length, like 3 by 5 cm. This way you will have an excess on the first line that you will cut, and you begin the next line with this piece. Following this way you will only have similar lines once every 6. But if you want, you can choose a random length and deal with it. When arriving to the roof level, I'm cutting 2 slats diagonally and glue them on the roof edge. And to fill this part of the wall, I will mostly place my plank, cut the diagonal excess and glue it every time I'm close to the roof edge. As you can see, I didn't avoid the door and windows. You can of course cut the planks in anticipation, but cutting them afterward makes you sure that they are even around those holes. If you feel like it's too clean, you can come back with your tinfoil bowl and crush a bit this frame, Don't forget to leave a small gap around 2 mm on each side from what we cut originally on the door frame. The facade is done and we can move to the next part, the roof. For this building, it's quite easy actually. Take a piece of thin cardboard and cut a big slat, around 1.3 centimeters, maybe 1.5, and then cut it in 2 centimeters long tiles. We glue the first tile from the bottom and then place the next a bit over the previous one until you are at the top. Then doing the same on the other side of the roof. For the top tile, you bend the cardboard in two before gluing it. The roof is half done. As you can see, it's way too clean for this kind of hovel. We are first pouring some PVA glue over the tiles and let it dry. And one last time, taking the wire brush, we apply a strong stroke on this roof to create the wood grain. Now we're done and we will move to the openings. I hope you have a good amount of stirrers in your hobby closet because this house will require a lot. At this stage you can basically take them one by one and scratch one of the surface with your blade. It's not mandatory, but otherwise the shutters and planks you add will look really new in comparison of the wall. First, the window sills. Just cut a length of stirrer and glue it only to the bottom of the window, exceeding a little the wall depth. Now do the same for the door opening, but this time on the sides and the top, without passing over the border this time. For the door itself, we begin by gluing stirrers side by side. Don't worry if it's not a perfect job, an old rotten door doesn't need to be perfect. The final dimension you are aiming for are the ones of the back frame, not the front frame. Then we add two planks horizontally, from one border to the last plank on the door. You don't need to go all the way through. Finally, we make 3 holes with a drill, the first 2 to glue a door handle, and the last that we let like this. It will be our lock. The window shutters will be easier to do, as they are supposed to be bigger than the window frame itself. We proceed the same way as the door, but adding some tiny pieces of toothpick on the side where the horizontal planks are glued. For the bullseye window, we are really not overdoing this. Let's say it has been sealed with old wood planks and glue some over it. You can make some tiny holes in the stirrers also. When we shade the whole thing, it will just look like nails. Anyway, it will look better in the end when we create the window panes, but so far so good. Let's finish this building by fixing the door and shutters, maybe add some planks to seal those, and this piece is ready to become the mysterious lair of a Chthonian cult. Okay, let's move to the big boy. This one will be a different kind of challenge. First, we need to deal with this cobbled house thing, and for that we will first create the support, and that means it's time to take our hot wire back. We need some new shapes to make this building. First, a 274 by 22 by 5 mm. And while we are at it, I also cut an angle of 2 mm on the wide side and on the two long sides to create a cornice. Second, the same slat but only 12 mm wide. We make the same cornice thing on the sides. And then we cut both in 4 segments. And now our most complicated parts. These are the stones supporting the cornice. They will be 2 by 1.5 by 1 with a curvy look. I'm drawing the shape on a 4 by 2 by 1 piece of foam board before splitting it in 4. We will also cut the house main stone, the one which will support the flag and the shield. This one is a 2 by 1.5 by 1.5 rectangle, and then cut diagonally at the side from 1.5 to 1 cm. And last but not least, the first stone line at the ground level needs to be bigger based on the height of the windows. Those will be 1.5 and cut at 2 and 1.5 cm wide. We also need a few 5 mm high bricks to fill some gaps. It's time to take the mighty foam grinder to sand our precious little stones. If you feel like bigger pieces are not sanding easily, you can make 2 batches to grind them all, of course. We can begin the assembling now, and we will start with the door and ground level windows. Don't forget to go over the small gaps of the frames, it will help us adjust the window panes at the end of the project. And then we are ready to mount the wall, from the bottom to the top. No rocket science here, choose your bricks to avoid any gaps between them and everything will be fine. On the last line we are adding our cornice supports, 2 on the borders and 2 near the door, and then the cornice itself. You might want to snip a small piece of it on the sides to fit the other house borders. Now for the second floor, we first need to place what will be the cover base, and for that we are using the 10mm thick foam board. It will cover the 2 top floors but will be covered by stones on the side, so I cut it at 25 by 12.5. We then report our holes and markings on the foam board before gluing it. We will begin here by assembling the sides of the wall, and for that we will alternate 1 cm and 2 cm long bricks. And then, exactly as on the ground floor, we will begin by the window stones and follow by the rest, not forgetting to use the main stone just above the door. I finished this floor with the second cornice, and as for the first one, we might cut the external edges to fit the neighboring houses. Regarding the last floor, as you can see, we have Gothic windows, and we are not going to use the same process that for the square ones. Instead, we are taking our 1 cm thick foam board and cut the shape directly into it. Then, after removing the top paper, I'm simply drawing the bricks into it, like we did for the canal walls. It's always easier to proceed this way with curved design, instead of hot wiring silly shapes in the foam. A quick tin foil ball roll and the arches are ready to be glued. We are doing the wall assembly just like on the previous floor, with the difference of the windows part. Here we'll have to actually cut the bricks to fit the curved shape. It doesn't matter if it's not fitting perfectly, we have one last step to fix that. I glued a foam strip on the top to finish the wall. Now, one last step, because we are doing some masonry now. Using some filler plaster and an old syringe, I'm filling the interstice between the stones like it would have been if it was an actual house. Once it's done, you can use a tissue to remove the excess and the walls are done. We still have the doors to do, and that will be easier now because it's basically the same process as for the first house. We glue scratched stirrers together, cut the right length, instead of wood for the horizontal lines, we will use cardboards, and we can add more, vertically or diagonally, to make the door look stronger. Finally, we can add a door handle, and to add to details I'm using this time a skeleton hand from the Bits book for that. You can be rich as hell, but also into grim dark, right? Especially in Marcita Aurora. Now let's just glue the doors from behind and the second house is done. Third house will be done quite differently than the two others regarding the making. Half-timbered buildings have a main structures of wood timber with clay bricks or rough cast in between. So we will work with two steps. First do the timbers, then the rough cast. We will first build the arch door as it's the only piece where we will need a different approach. Just like we did on the arch windows for the second building, we will cut the shape in the 5mm foam board. Then, after tearing off the top paper, we draw the small bricks of the arc and crumble them with the tin foil ball. This piece is ready to be glued to the board. Now it's time to begin the timbering. If we did enough slats for the first building, we might have enough spare for this part. Otherwise, it's time to cut, strip and scratch some more. A lot of the timbers will not be 1 cm wide, but only 5mm, so make sure you have around 1 full meter of those. We will also have some unique slats for this house. The first one is a 180 by 17 by 5mm that we are hot wiring, and the second is a 55 by 15 by 5 that we can cut in the foam board. Both can be scratched with wire brush before use. We can now begin gluing all the timbers from the ground floor. Firstly the vertical and horizontal, then the diagonal ones where we will have to cut each at the right angle and dimension. This floor can be completed by the ground support and 4 small wood pieces in the front. Those are actually the only slats where I had to scratch the surface on 3 sides. Moving to the second floor, we are adding the cobble base, which is here a 170 by 55 by 10mm foam board tile. I cut and report the markers we had on the foam board below. As we did on the stone house, we begin this floor with the side, here a timber. After that, let's just reproduce the work we did below with our new markers. I also wanted to add some damages on this floor. To represent this, I'm cutting some foam board and draw small bricks on it. I can now add randomly those pieces to the wall for the next step. Okay, it's time for rough cast now. It's actually the easiest part of this house if you are cautious enough. We made the same plaster as for the ground base with powder plaster, sand and water. This step will only be filling the gaps between the timbers with rough cast, which means adding around 5 mm thick of plaster in those areas. The surface does not need to be perfectly flat. Even on modern buildings, there are usually waves of material visible. On the area where we had bricks, we will only kiss the surface to make those as part of the wall, like if some part of the rough cast has fallen. Now leave this part the time to dry. We are now working on the last big step, the roof. The first step will be to create the roof angle with some more foam. This piece will be 50 by 20 mm with around a 73-degree angle. But easier than calculate, let's just draw the cut angle and follow it with the hot wire. Then I'm taking a knife and make some damage on the piece somewhere in the middle. And when my hole is big enough, I'm sticking a slat of wood in the middle of it. I will scratch the surface below, glue a timber on the side and will place it on the top of the house. Now, of course, we could just reproduce what we did for the roof of the wooden house, but this is a cozier building. We will create curved terracotta tiles using, this. Yes, this is the core section of a cardboard, the corrugated section. We are looking for a precise shape, a S shape, which represents about 1.5 wave. We cut this line to obtain long piece of curvy cardboard. And then we cut those at the same size, around 1 centimeter. To make this roof look real, we are beginning by the bottom. The first tile is glued and the second is added on the wavy piece of the first tile. We repeat this all the way to the next side and start again on the next line, again and again. At some point you will meet the hole in the roof. Don't care about that. If you apply your glue only on the good part of the roof, you will just have to remove the tiles unglued at the end of the process or just leave it like this. And to finish the roof, take some remaining tiles and cut the upward part. You can now just glue them up above, going a bit over each other. And finally, we still have this empty arch to shut. We begin just like the two other doors, making two big doors with the stirrers, gluing and cutting them at the curved shape of the black hole. And then, to make them look a bit more solid, I'm sticking segments of toothpicks on the surface to figure some big metal bars. And there we go. The 3 houses are done, ready to be painted later. It's been a long and tiring journey once again, but the biggest part of the building project is now behind us. We have an amazing background full of details and details to come. In our next episode we will work on a smaller yet more detailed piece of work, the fountain. Yes, I was swinging between a statue or a fountain, but we will actually make a mix of both. Thank you once again for your fidelity on this series. Feedback on the last week's episode were amazing. If you are discovering the series on this episode, I invite you to check my previous episodes to catch up with the other viewers to begin your own fantasy terrain. I hope to see you all for the 4th episode of The Quest for Marcita Aurora. Until then, take care, have a good painting to all, and see you all again soon.
And while our relentless hero leaves the ransacked city of Gondolf, aware of the way houses are built, he steals a boat to reach the Rodin's Pass. There is still so much to learn before he can watch the gracious roofs of the lost city of Marcita Aurora.